Oscar's Childhood, Episode 14. Hello, welcome. Carrots here. This is the story of Oscar and his childhood. He's had a tough time so far. Both of his parents died in a meteor strike a few episodes ago. In the confusion following the meteor strike, nobody knew where Oscar's siblings were. He had 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters. He appeared to be all alone. Poor Oscar. And then some stranger turned up and transported him to a boarding school in a place called Chocolate Cake Island. The thumbnail for this is Oscar, just after he arrived at the strange boarding school, clutching his imaginary friend, wondering what was going to happen next. Now, there's going to be quite a lot of new Sims appearing in his life, and the beginning of this video will give you a little background on some of the more important players in Oscar's future. This is Patience. She is the grandmother, great-grandmother, or mother of most of the Sims who Oscar will be meeting. The only Sim Patience ever married was Marty, and with Marty she had 5 children. The eldest was Helena, the others were Hayley, Heather, Hannah and Henry. They're all adults now, and between them they've had around 20 children. When Patience got tired of Marty, she ran off and moved in with Tobias Coffee, and they had 5 children together: Giles, Gloria, Gary, Gabby and Percy. Between them they've added 10 grandchildren to Patience's tally, and 2 of Percy's children are at the boarding school, Eric and Susannah. The next thing Patience did was go off and seduce a much younger man. She got herself a toy boy, in other words. Patience by now was an adult, and Ted was just recently aged up from teen to young adult. But she seduced him, and he moved in with her, and together they had 4 children. And finally, Patience invited Christopher Steele to move in with her and Ted, and so Ted moved out, and Christopher and Patience had 1 child, Craig. Patience continued with her wandering ways, and Christopher eventually gave up and moved out, and he now lives in Sunlit Tides. Now, this youngest Sim standing close to the front of the camera here, that's Mina Fields. She is Ted's little sister, and she's going to play a prominent role in this episode later on. This blonde is Teresa, the eldest daughter of Patience and Ted. Her name is Teresa Field. She's got 3 children, and with her live-in man, Charlie Smith. Now, Charlie's got commitment issues, so they've never married. They seem to stay together, and every so often they will have another baby. I have no idea how many they're going to end up with, but today is Olivia's birthday. She's going to become a child, and they live in Lucky Palms. Teresa does have a tendency to do things her way, and one way she's dealt with having a birthday in a confined space is to take the birthday child outside and put her down on the ground in the front yard. Plenty of space there for an aging up toddler. There's little Olivia becoming a child. Once her aging up has completed, she goes straight back inside to get a piece of birthday cake. We'll leave them now. Oscar is sure to number them among his few friends one day. Little Amelia Wilson has just come home from boarding school at Chocolate Cake Island, and her big sister, Alison, is still there as a child. Her mother is Tammy, who is another daughter of Ted and Patience. So this is Tammy Fields. And Tammy was hit by a meteor and killed when she was a child, but Patience managed to make ambrosia, and the little ghost ate the ambrosia and she became alive again. So that's how we've still got Tammy. Tammy is with a much older man, Jebediah Wilson, and he is the father of both of her children, Alison and Amelia. This is an old picture of Ted and Patience's daughter Tony when she aged up to teen. That's her sister Teresa, the blonde behind her, and the little boy in the background is Craig Steele, the son of Patience and Christopher Steele. I don't have any video of Tony. She's rather mysterious. She's not married, has no children, and she's a vocal legend. And now we come to Tom Fields. Tom is the son of Patience and Ted, and this is his fiancée, Olwen, and the toddler at their feet is Ephraim. Ephraim has recently graduated from boarding school. He's done all of his toddler skills. They've been together for many years, so they know each other very well. They've decided to get married, but there is one fly in the ointment. Tom has recently become aware that his childhood sweetheart is waiting for him to come and marry her, so he decided he'd better go and visit her in Dark Harbour and break the news. Unfortunately for Olwen, things didn't go quite as planned when Tom got to Dark Harbour, because Donna, her father, had a big gun, and they ended up married with children before Tom managed to get back to Olwen. See that blonde guy in the background? That's Mark Hansen. Now his father is Marty, who was Patience's first husband, and his mother is Marcy, who married Marty after Patience left. Mark is the father of Oscar's friend Mike, and there are 3 or 4 younger siblings that Mike has now as well. Now there's one other toddler I'd like you to meet before we go to the boarding school, and this is Colleen Jackson. Now Colleen is a plant sim, and she has just graduated from boarding school. She has completed all of her toddler skills and read all of her books, and she's about to age up to child. Now Colleen's mother is a witch, Harriet. She's one of my favourite sims because I just like the look of her. I'm gradually collecting a large group of young plant sims in this game, and I've got some vague sort of an idea that I'm going to do something with them in the future as a group. I'm not sure what yet, but they're spread across several different worlds at the moment. They don't all know each other. The only place where they could meet right now is at the boarding school. So you never know. It is quite possible we'll see more of Colleen. But at the moment she's just going to go and enjoy her cake. Mina has left her home in Lucky Palms and has arrived at the boarding school in Chocolate Cake Island, where she is about to help out with 8 toddlers. Most of these toddlers have already done their peg box and xylophone skills, but not much else. Although most of them can walk, talk and potty as well, but we do have to do a little bit of work with some of them who have arrived more recently. 4 of the toddlers are reading their skill books, and in the back you can see Mina teaching little Fawn Goodfellow to walk. Fawn is from Moonlit Falls, and she's here with her baby brother Benito. If you look up the Sims wiki, you'll find Fawn there, but not Benito, so he must have been born more recently. The little fairy with the green wings, that's Benito. That's Alexander Cross, that Faith Maduff is teaching to potty. The little red-headed toddler who's reading there, that's Francesco Winterbottom. He is the son of 2 of my Sims, and both of his parents are in this boarding school at the moment. I haven't played them for a long time, so I brought them all here. There's 4 young adults, and his mother and father are 2 of those young adults. And Mina is another, and the 4th young adult is the mother of Gator Wolf and his sister Wilhelmina, who are also both here, and that's Gator in the foreground in the red outfit doing his peg box skill. Outdoors we find Eric Coffey with a lot of gnomes. Eric is the son of Percy Coffey and Lorna McCann from Dragon Valley. This is Mara Nix. She is from Moonlit Falls. She decided she wanted to have a ride on the Cowplant Spring Rider. That's the big garden in the building across the road. And here's Oscar. He's painting a picture of a lighthouse. Now the little blonde girl toddler, that is Susannah Coffey. She is Eric's little sister, and their parents are, as I said, Percy Coffey and Lorna McCann. Now Percy is the son of Patience and Tobias Coffey, and Lorna McCann is a townie from Dragon Valley. Percy was a lot younger than Lorna, and she aged up to elder, but I wanted them to have children, so he made a potion for her to be young again, and she drank it, and they had a baby boy called Eric, who they completely ignored. Percy's half-sister Hayley used to come and rescue him from the snow occasionally, autonomously. And then they had a little girl called Susannah, who they also completely ignored. So now I've moved Eric and Susannah permanently to the boarding school. So wherever the boarding school is, we will find Eric and Susannah. The sim playing the guitar now is Cricket Irwin from Lucky Palms. She's a townie. And the sim who just gave that bottle to little Gator, that is Carly Winterbottom. She's the mother of the little red-headed toddler, Francesco. Her husband, the red-headed man, he's the only male young adult in this boarding school at the moment. The 4th one is Erica Wolf. And all 3 of the Wolf family who are in this boarding school right now, they're all werewolves. So we'll get to see little Gator being a toddler werewolf. Now here's Oscar. He's gone to the local fishing hole. It's very close to where they live. He needs to work on his fishing skill. I had originally planned for him and Eric to go fishing together a lot as children, but Eric aged up to teen autonomously just as I was moving Oscar into the boarding school, so that can't happen, unfortunately. But they still will team up. I'll age Oscar up to teen shortly. Not in this episode, but another couple of episodes probably. Now that little girl in the background, that's Alison Wilson. Remember I introduced you to her toddler sister Amelia with her mother Tammy earlier in the video? Her father is Jebediah Wilson, and her mother is Tammy Fields, who is the daughter of Ted Fields and Patience. That means she's a cousin of Eric's, and her aunt is Mina Fields. You can see the fish jumping. There is water there in the fishing hole. Alison's going to join Oscar and start fishing. There's lots of fish jumping there in that water hole. Shortly they'll be joined by the other children. I'm trying to get the children to learn to fish now so they don't have to spend so much time fishing when they're teenagers. Most of these children have just aged up from toddler because Kathleen and Alison didn't go home. They were at the toddler school and they were about to age up to child, so I aged them up at the toddler school and they just stayed there to do their child skills. They'll go home shortly because they have done their child skills now. They both live in Lucky Palms and they're cousins. When they age up to teens, well then they go gardening to work on their gardening skill. They've also got to get their fishing up to level 7, read their fishing books. Once you get to level 7, you can read all the fishing books. That's why I have level 7 set as the aim. There's Eric in the middle gardening there, and that's Serena Abe in the pink top. I saw Faith McDuff a while ago as well, and that's Coral Goldbeard. She was on the right there. So I want them to get their gardening up to level 7 because if ever I decide to play them when they're adults and I go to their household to play them, I don't want to have to work on their gardening skill. I want them to be able to plant any seed. That's Bruce Winterbottom there in the red hair. He's the one that's married to Carly. He's got a little toddler, Francesco, upstairs. This garden, I think, is being a problem for me because in this game at the moment, I have got massive freezing and lag. It has taken me a week just to record the little bit of video for this episode, and most of the time it's just been sitting there waiting for the computer to move on to the next bit. So this garden is going to be reduced considerably in size and possibly even bulldozed completely. Now back at her in the house, there's Alison. She's come inside, and the sim there in the middle reading is Erica Wolf. She's a werewolf, and she is a townie from Moonlit Falls, and she's got 2 children here at the boarding school at the moment. They are her daughter Wilhelmina, who's a child and almost ready to age up, and Gator, who is a toddler, and he will be aging up in a few days as well. There's Oscar. He's come to join. The 3 little girls who are working to gain their block skill are Kathleen Coffey and her cousin Alison Wilson, and the one on the right with the black ponytail is Mara Nix. And of course then there's Oscar. He doesn't need his skill, he's already got the block skill, but I thought you'd like to see him interacting with the girls, and I'd like him to increase his relationship with all of the members of the boarding school, so they do improve their relationship with each other when they're playing together in a group like this, I think. So that's why Oscar's there. The other sim who ought to be there, who needs to do her block skill but she got left out, is Wilhelmina Wolf. She'll just have to come and do hers on her own later. Up in the nursery, Benito Goodfellow from Moonlit Falls is drinking his bottle, and that's Carly Winterbottom standing there beside him. She's obviously on nursery duty at the moment. Her little son with the red hair is reading his books, and there's Gator Wolf over there near the playpen, and that could be Tyree Verona or one of the Cross boys on this side closest to the camera. There are 5 little sims here in the boarding school at the moment from Barnacle Bay, and they'll all be going home together as soon as the toddlers have finished their skills. That's Benito learning his potty skill. Only the Barnacle Bay toddlers need to finish their skills before they go home. There's 3 Barnacle Bay toddlers and 2 teens, Serena Abe and Coral Goldbeard. That's Gator. He's obviously learnt to use the potty because there he goes all by himself. The two little wolf kids, the girl Wilhelmina, the child, and Gator, who's still a toddler, are both very close to aging up without any assistance from me. I won't age them up in this episode, but I will get them a cake because their mother is there. The reason I've put all three them here with their mother is she was living on her own with the two children, her daughter and toddler son. She'd moved out of the family home, so I would have taken the two little ones and left her at home on her own, and I thought she'd probably learn some new skills as well. Now, over in the garden, a side away from the boarding school building, there's an area upstairs where there's all the facilities for living. So that garden lot could be placed in a world and be used as the main residence. And I find the teens have started going over there in preference to going back to the boarding school when they want to eat or sleep or have a shower or whatever. Probably it started because I had them gardening. All they had to do was go upstairs to get to the facilities. But later on, I found them over here quite often, even when I wasn't telling them to do the gardening. But I managed to get Eric to come back to the boarding school and look after the toddlers. Faith McDuff, she's there thinking about doing something with Fawn Goodfellow, and that's Erica Wolf standing there with a pink top on, and Mina Fields just going down the steps, and a little Mara Nix also going downstairs. So Erica is going to now try to do something with Fawn. The problem that happens is often I've got them out reading books or something like that, and then they'll just come and pick them up and put them in the playpens. But once they've learnt their skills, I will be putting them in the playpens two at a time to make best friends with each other, to help them with their future charisma skill. So here we are back at the water hole, the little fishing hole. The three little girls are there, and Oscar. I'm sure that the fourth little girl will show up eventually, but I suspect she's back at the boarding school doing her blocks skill that these other three did earlier, and Oscar did his before he ever moved to the boarding school. I see that he still remembers his brothers and sisters. They're in his relationships bar, so they must still be alive somewhere. It was hungry business doing all that fishing, so they've come back home to the house to eat. Bert Winterbottom, he's been there cooking. He's trying to work on his culinary skills, although I've given him the gardener occupation. He wants to get to the top of the gardening career, which he succeeds fairly easily. There was a time a few years ago when he was in every game I played for a couple of years. He was just my favourite sim to play with because he was such a good gardener. And then I put him in the big game, and he's been living in Moonlit Falls with his wife and their baby, and that he's a toddler now. Ever since I started the big game, I've only played them very briefly, so they've got almost no skills. That's Mina on duty in the background. She's doing her best to keep up with the demands of all these toddlers. They're just now going through the final bits of training before I start sending them home. Once they've done their walk, talk and potty and xylophone and peg box, they'll read all of their 8 books, and then I will cycle them through the playpens while they become best friends with each other. And as soon as that's happened, they're all best friends with each other, they'll start going home. So Benito finished his bottle, and now Mina is teaching him how to walk. It's one of the little cross boys walking towards the bare door. And Eric has turned up, and she's snuggling little Westerly Cross. I think that was Alexander Cross walking towards the door a few minutes ago. And you can just see the top of Suzanne's head in the playpen. Looks like he's hungry, so Erica will give him his bottle. You can see Susannah is learning things while she's playing with the abacus in the playpen. So Westerly's tired and he's having a screaming fit about it, and has brought everybody running for the screeching child. There's little Oscar, and Bruce has turned up as well. And here comes Carly. They're all there, putting their hands over their ears to avoid listening to the screaming child. And there's little Wilhelmina with the purple top on. We haven't seen much of her, but she's around. Fortunately, Erica managed to keep her mind on the job and has plonked him into his cot. Peace should reign around the nursery, except Gator's starting to scream because he wants to go to sleep too. Must be sleepy by his time for quite a few of the little Sims. We'll see if Erica can grab her little son and put him into his cot. And there she goes, she's got him. Just got to put him in his cot now. Carly's gone over to stand next to her little son who's reading his book. That's little Francesco on the floor reading just in front of Carly. Here we've got Susannah and Benito making friends. They play peekaboo in the playpen. I had to use the back of an envelope and put a tick beside their names to work out who had made friends with who, so that by the time it was time to send them home, everybody was friends with every other toddler. All 8 of them were best friends with each other. Next day was a school day, and here's Oscar. He's in a hurry to get out to the bus, followed by Kathleen, some of the teens. Most of them go by bus, but the little witches often choose to use their brooms with training wheels. That's what Kathleen's a witch. She's inherited that from her father. Gabias Coffee was a witch too. Quite a few of his children are witches in this game. It was after he got made a witch automatically by the game that I switched off all of the supernaturals in my options. Now Erica is at the greenhouse and she's not there for seeds. They don't need any more seeds. They've got a huge garden at home. She's looking for wildflowers because she's got a wish to pick 20 wildflowers, and I'm trying to build up her lifetime happiness points because she doesn't have many lifetime happiness points. Now Eric is teaching little Francesco how to walk while the toddlers are finishing off their books. I used to make them all become best friends with each other and then make them sit there and work on their charisma skill. The reason I was doing the best friend thing in the playpen is to get their number of friends up so that they can play with the mirror and get their charisma skill up really high. But it takes such a long time for them to improve their charisma skill in the mirror that in the end I have pretty much stopped doing that, and I may stop them playing peekaboo as well and just send them home because it takes. Actually, the peekaboo thing doesn't take that long. I just click on the playpen 8 times and tell one of them to play with the other one, and they become best friends fairly quickly that way. But I don't keep them then to get their charisma skill up to great heights. I think it's more fun to do that when they're at later ages. The playpen teaches them logic and charisma, and the walker teaches handiness. So the longer they play with the abacus, the mirror or the walker, the more they will improve those 3 skills. But I don't think it's worth holding them the boarding school indefinitely until they get as high as they possibly can, because I think they get those skills faster at later age states. But it is something you can do if you've got toddlers stuck as toddlers for a really long time. That's little Tyree Verona over there on his xylophone. I discovered after he'd finished everything, including all of his books, I realised he hadn't done his peg box or his xylophone. So he's over there just finishing. He's done the peg box, now he's just finishing off the xylophone. And Susannah is working on the abacus to improve her logic skill, because there's nothing left for her to do either, except maybe play with some little Sims and make best friends with them. Mina's back on duty in her sleepwear. And here we go with a little game of peekaboo. Toddlers just getting to know each other and making buddies, making best friends. So we will leave them at their little game, getting to know each other. There's going to be lots more of peekaboo between all of the different toddlers. And notice I have put 2 of the playpens in the family inventory. I'll get them out when I need them again. Time for the school's children to come home from school. That Reardon Mithrilin, the blue guy, he is a bit different, and I've discovered why. He's got an interesting trait. He's insane. He certainly behaves like he's insane, some of the things he gets up to. You'll get a few laughs out of him. You haven't seen him much yet, but later in this episode and in the next few episodes you will see more and more of him. It's just that there's been so many toddlers to get trained in this episode to get them out of the boarding school. That's Faith McDuck. I don't know what she's doing, just standing there waiting. Oh, she's going inside now. They've all got to go do their homework. I get them up to grade A students really fast. Then they've got to stay there. I don't like them to do part-time jobs when they're teenagers. If any of my teens get a part-time job, I get them out of it fairly quickly. Now, this is interesting. I've never seen a sim of mine in the past autonomously come up to this book of spells and start studying spells, and that's what he just did. And I had to wait until he'd finished learning the spell before I found out what he was doing there. And it turns out he was learning the spell to summon a sim, because when he'd finished, it said something about him being able to do something that the witches, only witches could do or whatever, and that he could summon a sim. Keeps covering his ears up. It must be that sound. You know, I've heard that sound before in this game, and I'd wondered what it was and where it was coming from. It never occurred to me that he was upstairs. This is the top floor. It's just the roof above him, and the toddlers are in the floor below. So you can hear this on the other floors. I've put the spell book in the boarding school building, but I've never really done much with it. I mean, I have played with it before. It was broken for a long time, but I don't think it is now. But I don't have the cauldron in the boarding school, so I can't really test that. He seems to have learnt something interesting. Hopefully I'll get whoever started those sculptures to get them finished before they go home. But this is the room that I've set up with a lot of skilling objects in it, and it's where I'll be mostly when the toddlers have aged up or gone home. We'll be spending more time up here with the teens that are left. There's not a lot that I do with the children. I'll get them as high as I can with fishing, because then I don't have to make the teens learn to fish. And I'll even get the children reading recipes, because they can read some recipes if they've done their cooking skill, I'm assuming, with your little toy oven, and they can read all the fishing books. And that's why I make them get to level 7 in fishing, is to get them to read all the bait books. And they've got all of the books, including the books from the World Adventure Worlds, in the bookshelves here, so they should be able to read everything. It's an interesting colour in that bar above his head. I haven't seen that colour in anything else other than this book. I was following him around just a little while ago in the game. Bits that I've recorded probably won't go in for another episode or two, and he was just doing such strange things. I checked on what his traits were, and insane just popped straight out at me. I thought that explains a lot. It's fun having Sims with different traits, because they've all got different autonomous actions that they can do. My problem is one of the things he was doing was making the game freeze. I think I'd had to do a lot of calculations, so having a lot of problems with freezing in this save at the moment. I thought it was because I was using up too much memory, but I've managed, after taking several of them home, I've managed to get the memory use right down to, it's a lot, there's no way that they would get an error 12 on the save now, and it still keeps freezing on me, so there's something else happening. There he is, he's learnt something. There's been quite a few little Sims through this boarding school before Oscar arrived, but we're only watching the video from after Oscar's arrival. Back down in the toddler's room, we're trying to get those books all read. Looks like Fawn's finished that book. Alexander, with the red sleeves and the white outfit, he's Odessa Cross's son. Don't know what happened to Odessa. She got crazy and she started having babies. She's got 5 at last I knew. I think little Alexander's probably about the 3rd one. There's 2 of her sons here now, and previously I had her daughter, who was the eldest, and another son were here together. And I took them home and I brought these 2, and she's got another baby as well. It's just still a baby in the cot. Erica's good with the children, not with the toddlers, I've noticed. She's a werewolf. We'll get to see her transform at some point. Probably not this episode though, because this episode's nearly over now. The little toddler she was holding, just put in the playpen, little Fawn, she is the eldest sister of little Benito, who is the little fairy. And I read the Sims wiki on them, and apparently Fawn was adopted, and Benito doesn't appear in the wiki, so he must have been born after the game started. Well, that's it for now. I'll leave it here with Erica helping out the toddlers and moving them around there between different playpens. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. In the next episode, the toddlers will finish off their training, and then I will take the 3 toddlers and the 2 teens home to Barnacle Bay, and we will see inside some of their homes. Plus, there's other things will be happening as well. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to click that like button if you have enjoyed the video, and think about subscribing as well if you haven't subscribed yet and you'd like to see the next episode, which I will be working on as soon as this one is complete. Bye bye for now, and happy simming.